preacher full of fire and power, and he gets up there and he wants to preach hellfire, damnation, brimstone, and he's in love with it. He's in love with preaching that, and there's a howl for that. And we're in love with these fiery words from the pulpit. But brother, I'm going to tell you something. When you're standing there on at the graveside with somebody suffering and they're looking to you, and let me say something, my friend, you find yourself lowly. You say, God, I need you. I'm telling you something. A young pastor and an older pastor is two different types of pastors. I'd tell any of them to their face that. At 20 years old, I thought I had the cat by the tail. I get up there and I tell you what I thought. Somebody said, all you do now, you tell on yourself all the time. But you know what? I see myself. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you and act like I'm something grand and glorious when I'm not. He's grand and glorious. Jesus said, God is good. Why callest thou me good? I'm not good. But He's good. I'm flawed. My son will tell you, I'm flawed. He said, he knows his dad is not perfect. But those days in my life where I thought I was. These days in my life where I thought I had it. James 4:7, submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, he'll flee from you. Submit to God, not to self. Ephesians 5:21, submit yourselves to one another in the fear of God. Realize that we're here for each other. That I submit to you and you submit to me. And we'd humble ourselves and wash one another's feet. Not to be seen of man, not to make a good showing of it, but bow down and say, I'm going to sacrifice, not so somebody can see me, not so somebody can brag on me, not so, you know what? I was in love, and Darren was talking about this week. I was in love with, I was chasing a compliment. I was chasing after somebody tell me that I did good on something. I lived my life that way as a teenager, as a young adult. I wanted somebody to look at me and say, you know what, you're making a difference and you're doing a great job. And that's what and I'm going to tell you something. It got to the place where I cared about what people thought more than than God. That's pride. It was all about what people saw, James. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. I'm trying to tell you because I don't want you to fall into this. Then I wanted somebody to tell me what I was doing was good. And I told God, I said, God, I can. And when I didn't get that, it's like you were crushed. And God said, Brandon, what's your motive? Remember, I preached a sermon one time on what's the motive. Are you doing it for me or are you doing it for somebody else? I mean, why are you doing it? Church, we got to ask ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? Why do you do what you do? You know what I want to hear him say as the Brother Nathan Jennings said a while back? Well done, thou good and faithful servant. That's what's important. Danny, it's not what people think. It's what God knows. That God's pleased. James, that's what's important. That anything else is pride. If I want anybody else to brag on me or put my name in lights, and you know, God has changed me. That one time they would always want to call you the Reverend. I said, please quit putting Reverend in front of my name. Call me pastor, call me shepherd, call me preacher, but I'm not a reverend. You say, but we ought to reverence you. No, we ought to reverence God. God is the one to be reverenced, not me. I don't deserve reverence. He deserves reverence. Think about that just for a minute, church. There's no man deserves reverence, but God deserves it. I like to be called pastor. I like to be called preacher because that's what I am. But there's nothing better about me than you. Nothing. But sometimes, church, we are about ourselves. Are you ever been about yourself? I don't believe I'm the only person that's ever struggled with this. Because I believe we all do to some capacity. We all want somebody to brag on us. We all want somebody to tell us that we're doing good. When God's all that matters, He will exalt us in due season. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, over the humility, clothe the humility, for God resisteth the proud and giveth grace to the humble. God resists the proud. God doesn't want the proud around. Those that think they've got the cat by the tail. Those that think they're better than everybody else. Those that think they're wonderful and the world ought to bow down. Pull toward him. Well, look who invited to the birth of his son. The wretches, the misfit shepherds, keeping watch over their flock by night. Think about it. He let his son be born in a stable. And yet somewhere I think I'm better than that. He was laid in a feeding trough of an animal, and I think I ought to tell God what I deserve. He let his son die on the cross of Calvary, and I have the audacity or the stupidity to say, God, I deserve better. This is Brandon Young. Church, it's absurd, isn't it? It's blasphemy to even think that way. Romans 13:1, let every soul be subject unto the powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that are ordained of God. Let the souls be subject unto the higher powers, and there's no power but that of God. Let us be humbled before His presence and power. Isaiah said, "Oh God, I'm a man of unclean lips."